Imagine finding a beheaded corpse in a sea cave and calling it a Roman hooker for 200 years. Let's talk British archaeology. Its entrance so hard to reach you'd need rope, nerve and a peculiar disregard for personal safety. Inside, a mutilated corpse drenched in red ochre buried with broken ivory wands and sea snail jewellery. No head, no right side. And for nearly 2 centuries we thought she was a Roman-era sex worker. Oh, we Brits do love a misdiagnosis. Welcome to Pagan Britain, where we begin with the question, when did ritual first come to these islands? Long before Stonehenge, long before druids in bad wigs. We're talking Ice Age, long. For almost 1 million years, human-like beings have traipsed in and out of Britain like it was a travel lodge. Most of that time, this soggy landmass was connected to Europe via a mythical lost world now submerged beneath the North Sea, known as Doggerland, which some of you will be familiar with, and for much of that time we weren't even the only humans here. Our evolutionary cousins, the Neanderthals, were likely already dabbling in cave art and possibly the world's first existential crises. But it wasn't until Homo sapiens arrived around 42,000 years ago that the art, the burials, and the big, spooky rituals really kicked off. Let's begin with Paviland Cave in South Wales, also known tragically and inaccurately as the resting place of the Red Lady. In 1823, the eccentric Reverend William Buckland, a geologist, Oxford Don, and owner of a pet bear named Tiglath Pileser. That's right, he had a bloody pet bear. William dug up this red-stained skeleton buried with ivory trinkets, periwinkle shells, and what looked suspiciously like broken magic wands. But do remember, history is open to interpretation. But because there was a Roman fort above the cave, and because the Book of Genesis didn't mention mammoths, Buckland concluded she was a local lady of the night, who entertained soldiers in the cave. A charming tale, except it turned out the bones were male. He lived over 32,000 years ago, and the red garment he was buried in, likely ceremonial, the broken ivory wands, possibly ritualistic, the man himself, probably a shaman, a spiritual leader, or at the very least someone with excellent accessories. So there you have it. Britain's oldest known burial, covered in red ochre, stuffed with symbolic items, and completely mislabeled for 150 years. And they say archaeologists have no sense of humour. Next, we travel to Creswell Crags on the Derbyshire and Nottinghamshire border. A gorge so dramatically Gothic it might as well come with fog and a pipe organ soundtrack. Excavations there revealed bones, flint tools, and carvings on the cave walls. The carvings were more significant than most of the British Museum, and we actually found these ones in Britain. Actual prehistoric art in Britain was a hell of a find because for decades we assumed such artistic flair was strictly French or Spanish, as usual, but in 2003 researchers discovered over 25 carvings hidden behind Victorian graffiti. Horses, deer, and what might be naked women dancing, or long-necked birds, or possibly both. It's hard to tell, really. Art is subjective. There's also a triangle with a line through it. Some say it's a vulva, others say an animal footprint. Either way, it's the world's first Rorschach test. And as for the earlier finds, a horse carved onto bone, possibly genuine, possibly planted, and a so-called masked dancer, which upon closer inspection might just be a bear or someone who really couldn't draw. Finally, we reach Gough's Cave in Cheddar Gorge. Beautiful place, I can tell you from personal experience. Yes, cheddar, like the cheese. But this cave has a different kind of vintage flavour. Cannibalism. Between 13,800 BC and 11,300 BC, humans used the cave seasonally. They left flint tools, carved bones with mysterious notches. Were they calendars, scorecards, or maybe tally sticks for prehistoric pub quizzes? But most disturbing of all, human remains. But we're not talking about skeletal remains, no. Bones from at least 6 individuals, adults and children, were found, stripped of flesh mixed in with animal bones. Skulls turned into cups, the oldest in the world. Was it spiritual, a ritual, or just a really bad day at the office? Modern researchers can't agree. Some say it was respectful, spiritual even, cleaning bones to carry to sacred burial sites. And in a stroke of genius only the British could muster, In 2005, the visitor centre embraced the gruesome and leaned into it, proudly becoming the nation's one and only museum dedicated to prehistoric cannibalism. Morbid? Perhaps. Brilliant? Absolutely. So, what have we learned today? Ritual in prehistoric Britain was not stone circles just yet, but caves full of ghosts, bones, and the occasional wrongly gendered skeleton. The earliest known sacred sites on this island weren't cathedrals or temples, they were holes in the rock filled with the echo of drums, chants, and maybe chewing. Ritual came to Britain not with a bang, but with a bone saw and a splash of red ochre. That Victorian archaeologists saw what they wanted to see, usually a prostitute. If that doesn't make your next cave walk a little more interesting, I don't know what will. Comment if you've heard of Doggerland, or if you just like saying it. But don't worry, dear viewer. This is just the first course in our deliciously deranged feast of British pagan history. If you learned something new, or got slightly traumatised, then follow for more tales of headless corpses, skull cups, and Victorians who really needed to get out more.